I've just had a pretty active weekend traveling, spent with my family, taking my mom down to Virginia and things like that. Just trying to get a little relaxing Memorial Day weekend. But uh, this is not necessarily a positively video because we got some drama in the YouTube space now. Apparently, I come back and I just have this whole like YouTube feud and people coming on talking about camera reviews, and then now we're getting beefs or like people coming in talking about this YouTuber talking about this other YouTuber, and et cetera, and um, all over something like the S9. And I was just like, what? R- really? So today I'm going to give my opinion on the whole situation. Um, I'm going to go through the periods of events. I am going to see where I feel where my takes are on the parties involved. I'm going to throw a couple channels that I thought had some interesting takes, and then ultimately, where do I sit in the terms of YouTubers getting access, flown out, and things like that, and and reviews, the state of camera gear reviews, equipment reviews, product reviews, and um, is the YouTuber space dead? And given the fact that Panasonic was the one that started this all, is Panasonic in trouble? What's going on, everybody? My name is James Jackson. If you're new here, I do tips, tricks, news, and reviews for the film and video making industry. So if this is content that you like, definitely make sure to hit that subscribe button and hit that bell so you can stay up to date on all the content going forth. So if you have been like me, you were kind of living on a rock, and you're not like me, where you didn't really hear about what's going on. Let me break it down to you. Some of y'all probably know, if you've seen my video, Panasonic recently just announced their newest camera, the S9. And definitely have some flaws, but there's some intrigue and interesting things about this camera. Well, apparently this sort of kind of just went into like this crazy thing after a person you all probably know well and know, Gerald Undone, came in and put out a video, which he originally started out with an Instagram video. Then he made a YouTube video discussing this, and he gave some very big critiques about how the perception of what a lot of people were saying about a lot of the reviewers that went out to Japan, and he gave his own personal experience about working with major brand companies. However, probably the thing that struck a chord with everybody is the fact that one of the critiques that he basically had was that how the reviews came off as either pretty much the same or pretty much gave off the sense of inauthenticity that these reviewers could not necessarily the videos that were releasing, given that this was a launch day event and that they were flown out, was not trusted.
This isn't just a camera YouTube review issue, that other categories, basically anything that gets reviewed on YouTube, probably has these same struggles. What did I actually write when I wrote that blurb on social? Let's talk about press events for a minute. They're weird. In the photo video space, many of us camera reviewers are friends, so when you invite a bunch of us to an interesting location, and we're hanging out, eating good food, and sharing stories, the positivity in the air naturally rises. Then they shuffle us all in an auditorium where an enthusiastic speaker from the brand comes out to tell us about this new product that they're very excited to share with us. By this point, the room is already so excited just to be there in that moment that we clap and cheer just because some dude from the camera brand merely walked on stage. So then when they start showing us slides on a massive screen about their latest, likely only infinitesimally better gadget, we collectively start building a video in our minds of how to best regurgitate this to you, the consumer and YouTube viewer, and likely how to shoehorn a sponsor in there so we can actually get paid, because these press events actually cost us money, not make it. They don't give a presentation about the camera's cons, so it's up to us to find them. But imagine trying to find all those cons while walking around an exotic location with a group of friends, all giggling about a bunch of esoteric memes, and with limited time before we have to travel back home and rush to edit the video to hit embargo. It's a flawed system designed to generate hype and sell products. It's also extremely effective. We should actually be impressed that many creators are able to put any kind of reasonably balanced review at all, considering these conditions. I don't generally fault anyone for the type of content that comes out around embargoes or after press events, aside from generally lackluster or completely absent disclosures, but I think what we're actually doing wrong is playing the game in the first place. Why am I talking about this now? Why now, and why with Lumix? Why after a Lumix launch? And the answer to that is simple. This is the first launch in a while where I've been in the position that I've been in, and I'm not participating in the launch at all. I'm not reviewing the camera at home while people are at a press event. I'm not at the press event. I'm just a viewer on YouTube that was watching these videos to see what is everybody saying about the Lumix S9. And I'm reading your comments and I'm watching the videos, and I thought, wow, there's a serious disconnect here between me knowing what these people are up to in a positive way and reading what the comments are saying and thinking. And so I got to experience that, maybe more as a viewer than as anybody else.
This was compiled on by, of course, the Joker of camera reviews himself, Casey, aka Camera Conspiracy, when he dropped his own video.
Like, what do you mean 12-second recording limit? You're joking, right? Yeah, I was joking. What, do you think I'm gonna put a little limit on the recording? People do talking head videos. This is for content creators. They sit down for like half an hour or so of course we'll keep up with that in HD, like almost 30 minutes in HD. It's a good camera. Do you have a form that I could fill out to fire myself? I don't trust you or your judgments. I'm embarrassed to come to work. I come in through the back door. Panasonic, what happened to you?
And then it just blew up into this whole thing of this discussion of, is camera reviews, is this part of YouTube, one, is it trustworthy, especially if you get a review on launch day? And then it's also spill into, well, are camera reviews and gear reviews sort of worth it? Obviously, given the fact that this is sort of the space that I interacted, I've had some feelings about it. I want to just say regarding the original thing, which was Gerald Undone's video, I mean, look, Gerald had a lot of things that I do agree with, where there's this sense that when you're getting all these videos all at once, and they're all saying the same thing, it feels like that there is this sense of talking points. You're just given the talking points and you're just out there to sell it. And while for some people that may be true, I also know that there is a lot of YouTubers that I know personally that take the fact that the stuff that we talk about, myself included, the stuff that we talk about on our channel, we know that there is an intrigue that you may get it, and we want to make sure that we feel that it's actually worth its money worth. And that's kind of hard to do when you got a camera that you only maybe have a couple hours, and really you don't really get to see the full length of cameras until farther along the line. It feels, I don't want to say disingenuous, that's not the correct word. To me, it's just like to have the critique of the people who I know got some, maybe it wasn't their main success, but people that got their success from things like this to now come out. Again, this is not necessarily Gerald specifically, because again, he acknowledged this and he also gives more light into it, where even when he's at these events, he's not doing all these things, and he makes it clear to whatever camera company that he goes to that he's going to do his own thing, and if that is not worth it, then don't worry, we'll keep it pushing. And I have a whole bunch of respect for that. I just find it interesting that a lot of these people are now, a lot of people who are now have much success. They've been doing TED Talks and interviews at NAB. They're now coming out and being critical about it. The second thing I'm looking at is given to that whole thing. I'm just like, where was all this energy before? I'm like, this ain't new. It wasn't like Panasonic. It wasn't Panasonic that just first started this. I mean, this is like every single major camera, for years, when major cameras finally announced, the A7S, the A7S III, the R5, the Z9, all the major YouTube influencers, they all get the camera and they all drop their videos all at once. This has been going on for quite a while, and this was something that, I myself have been vocal about for years. I never take day one reviews really seriously and try to put the hype. That's why maybe that's why I don't get invited. I don't know. I never get invited, and I'm not mad or salty or anything one way or the other. I do appreciate that when I do get a camera, that companies like Blackmagic, when they do send me the camera, I get months and months, and I get to try it on multiple projects and put it in multiple forms. So when I actually put out my review, that's why whenever you see me release a video, I have had months in various scenarios to put the camera or put whatever product it may be through its paces. I don't like the feeling of being like, when I feel like I have a certain deadline, and especially if it's a short one where it's like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, when I got like 2 weeks with it, I personally don't like that feeling because I feel like I'm being rushed. Instead of doing what I'm supposed to be doing, it's like I am a creator. I want to create, which means I have to have time to plan, pre-production, get a team, scout, get maybe additional gear needed to make these things happen, so you can actually see what it's like using the camera. I guess what I'm answering the thing is like, I do agree that this is a problem, but I also feel like this is a problem that has been a problem for years, and it's just weird that it's this event that all of a sudden. It's not like I'll be very curious to see, and I will see if this is legit, because I'm really curious to see if the same energy is going to be applied when Sony announces like a new FX line camera or a new Sony a7S III or a new Sony camera. Because there were a lot of times during last year where Sony was using the same sensor technology, and I was hearing crickets of pushbacks, except for maybe a few people that I was having conversation with. But in terms of the media, the YouTube comments, I ain't hearing none of that. I was saying a lot of this stuff too. For me, at least, I wasn't hearing this with Sony. I hear this with Canon, and obviously now we do hear this with Panasonic. I don't hear this with Sony. So I will be curious, regardless of, basically what I'm trying to say is, regardless of what the camera manufacturer is, I will be really, really curious to see if this energy is going to be the same. And the same energy is going to be kept with other manufacturers that don't necessarily get the critique that this got. Which then leads me into the things that I was like, what is talking about, the state of, I guess, launch events, the state of like this whole thing of being flown out and trying this out. Should this be rehoused? Should this be changed? I'll be honest, the easy answer should be yes, but it's a little bit more complicated than that. Because I know for a fact that most of the time, when you are quote unquote being flown out, a lot of times you still got to flip the cost of a lot of things getting there. I could be going, it isn't very common, even though you see it, especially during NAB, where people are talking about, oh yeah, we got this nice house and we're all here, all these creatives, and it looks nice and flashy. But the reality for most of us who are doing YouTube influence that I know of, we gotta flip the bill and go to these places ourselves. So it's not like it's a full paid expense. There's certain things that is paid for, like they may have scenarios and scenes set up. Like NAB, you get the chance to put your hands on the camera, you get to try to play with it and see the dials and how it feels, but a lot of times they're also locked down. But there's also other events where it's very, very specific manufacturer events where they'll have actors and models and coming out and testing out and giving you the freedom to guide them and direct them. And it does, I do think there is benefit to them, given the fact that you get to work in an environment, potentially an environment you're not used to working, and you get to also show off your skills directing talent, directing models, and figure it out. So I still see that there's ways that you can still hone your skills while also checking out these different products. And then, of course, as I mentioned, it's like not all of them is paid expenses. A lot of them, we still got to flip the bill. It does feel, I do feel, however, that we as creators need to sort of expand our ability and our objectivity and try to find different ways to communicate a product. Because again, we all have different perspectives. We all have our own individual stories. And I would suggest to all these content creators, regardless of who you are, that you really take the time to really hone your individuality of who you are, both as a content creator, as an influencer, as a gear review influencer, whatever you may call yourself. And just and find a way how you can use that unique voice of yours to deliver a unique message and a unique perspective. Like Matt, who is Matty? He is clearly a wedding person. He is fully wedding, and he looks everything through a wedding person's perspective, and that is valuable. Some people use their own personal experience, where they come from, their back, and use that to give sort of, experience. So that's why I encourage everybody, because there is this thing where you're getting all these reviews and there's basically, you are being a salesperson for the company. So especially at these events, and you got to deliver the stuff upon. I personally will look at it as, when it comes to these events, because these events also, I like to point out, and Gerald actually pointed this out as well, was the fact that you do get a chance to network and build relationships with other people in this space. And that's really the value of these events. So if it means that Panasonic or Sony or Canon never call you back for an event, but you gain a relationship with maybe a few of the creators in the space, that alone is still worth it. Even if you may not touch another one of these cameras and you may have to buy it yourself, which is fine. Because to me personally, if I'm not willing to buy or go out and I can see myself buying that camera specifically, I don't see how I could suggest a camera that I at least can't look myself in the face and say, I am not willing to buy. And that's my personal, those are my core character values. Those are my whole personal, things that I hold dearly. So that's why whenever I talk about a gear, I have to have it in my mind, like, would I actually buy this? And if the answer is yes, then I bring it to you, because I'm not here to waste your time. And the last thing I want to do is waste your money. All in all, what I'm trying to say in this section is to all the creators that if you go to these events, we do have to find ways to deliver creative messages. Yes, you could talk about specific things, but you don't have to cover the whole thing. Like if I was to have gone to this Panasonic S9 event, I would not waste any of your time talking about the still part. The reason why? It doesn't make sense. I don't take photos. Why would you listen to me about taking photos when you got tons of people like Manny Ortiz and Gordon and a whole bunch of other, people that do photography professionally and get paid and do this for a living? Jared Poland or whatever, if he was, I don't think Jared was there. But the point I'm trying to make is, for people that actually do this and do this consistently, it makes more sense for you to listen to them on the photography side. I would only make content regarding video, so I don't have to waste space. Yes, there's other features, but you don't have to go over every single feature. I would suggest going over features that make sense for you and make sense to speak about for your audience. And then talk about it from there, both positively and negatively. Because I've seen some reviews of products that people, I'm like, there ain't no way in hell that if you actually did this for a living, you would not bring up this issue. And I've seen a lot of them with some products recently. But who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the product is actually extremely stellar. But I'm just like, if you actually did this for a living as a film person, you would not accept this. Look, I'm not really here to not or tell people, because I don't want people to lose access and maybe get restricted and maybe not get the opportunities. Having said all that, the point I'm trying to get to the camera manufacturers, you may want to try to reduce the amount of influencers, or at the very least, if you're going to bring influencers or bring people, or maybe not bring influencers, but bring people in to offer feedback on your products, actually, take them, but also you may just want to reduce the numbers, because again, the last thing everybody wants is like 20 different videos popping up day after day after day because of the algorithm talking the same thing, and it's just like, man, where we're getting over and over again. So I think camera manufacturers need to be better at targeting specific camera content creators or product reviewers. Be very, very more specifically in targeting them, that can target specific areas and sort of hold it that way. So you don't get this feeling like I'm hearing 50 different videos of the same thing. And I think that's sort of the thing that's happened. But again, this is not a Panasonic problem. Every other manufacturer that I can think of has done this exact same thing, and it feels the exact same thing every single time. So I'm not here to just personally attack Panasonic for this. But I will say there is a great video that was brought up by Alt City. Love them. If you haven't seen Alt City, I'll definitely check their channel out. I'll leave links in the description below. They do greats about like basically taking cameras and taking different pieces and sort of building cameras that they've all wanted to use. And they've done a bunch of rehousings of like Blackmagic cameras, Canon cameras, so many different cameras, and I love them. The point I'm trying to make is the main man who is the host of Alt City, he basically talked about his experience actually working with Panasonic, and it is definitely very eye-opening on it, and it does ring true to not all, but some of the experiences that I even personally had, where I have provided my feedback and I bring honest critique feedback, and the company, which I'm not naming names, but the company doesn't take any of these things into consideration, and they wonder why things aren't moving the way they are. It's a great video, and it goes to a core of another problem that I think needs to be addressed, and it's the fact that if you're going to bring people in to check these out and give these things and give this honest feedback, you should be willing to try to take these in and give this and make adjustments as see fit. Again, unlike Casey, I know there isn't a perfect camera. I know there will never be a perfect camera. It doesn't, from a capitalistic standpoint, it doesn't make sense to build the perfect camera, but you can try to solve problems. And that is the point, and that should be the point of products. Any product it should be something to solve a problem, which is why lately it goes into this whole thing of how I've been feeling lately. And I know I got a lot of hate for my recent video that I put out where I said I've lost interest in Canon, and I still have lost interest in Canon. It hasn't changed, even with everything that is rumored and things that we officially have heard, or the little official that we've heard. But my feelings haven't changed. It's just I've got little to no interest with Canon, and it's the fact that I haven't seen anything come from them that has piqued my interest. Whereas I have seen people like Blackmagic people like Confinity and tons and tons of other things have really pushed things that I have deemed interesting and valuable to me. But again, that is an individual thing. But the point I'm trying to make is that if you're a camera manufacturer just relying on your laurels, you're going to get left behind. And also the issue, I guess this points to a bigger problem of pushing products that seems to be like oversaturated. Like Sony has been habitually known for this, where they'll pump out products that just feel like it's the same thing except it's rehoused. And Blackmagic has had this critique, and it's a legitimate critique as well, where it feels like you're pumping out the same product, you're just putting it in a different house, you're just putting it in a different dress, instead of trying to figure out how to push things to the next level and actually, again, build various separate products that don't overlap but actually solve problems. Because again, build problems to solve problems, not building products just to sell products. I think that's where a lot of this is coming back from. It's like, you're releasing this thing, it is smaller, it's compact, but it's more limited, but it's literally has the brain of an S5, and then it makes you go, well, why would I want this camera versus an S5? Especially since it's only a couple $100 more just to get an S5, and you get much better features. Yes, it's more compact, but is that compactness worth losing so much? And that's sort of how I felt a lot about Sony's A7C launches that came out last year, and a bunch of their other products, where I'm like, why would you spend money on this when you could just get the more higher end? Yes, it's more expensive, but it actually just solves more problems. You're not solving any problem by just putting it in a different body. It doesn't solve anything. It just seems like you are just trying to push something out to make content creators buy something instead of just getting something that solves a need. Basically, manufacturers, stop oversaturating the market. If you want to make more sales on your cameras, stop oversaturating the market. Now, I know part of this has to do with the fact that we're still feeling the ramifications of the pandemic, where we had massive chip shortage, and that's really probably where a lot of this animosity has come from, because they had to use the same bodies because of that. So overall, what are my final thoughts? At the end of the day, the thing that Gerald started with his video, I do have agreements that this is something that was definitely noticeable at the Panasonic event. However, I will also say this is something that is not new at all. This has been something that's been happening for years. So, this is nothing new. And I just find it interesting that it's now that at this event that all of a sudden, I guess this just was the straw that broke his camel's back. And in the end, the solutions that I say is for creators, really hone to it and try to find your voice. Find a way to speak that not every other YouTuber is speaking about, and then basically create something unique and interesting so people don't feel like they're listening to the same garbage over and over again. Camera manufacturers, stop oversaturating the market and stop oversaturating people pushing content out. And that will definitely help. And then just lastly, I will just say, at the end of the day, it's from a film perspective, cameras are like the least important thing in terms of building a foundation. It is a pillar. I won't say a pillar. It's an element, but it's really honing in the skills, the knowledge of what it takes to get a good looking image. You're understanding lighting, understanding how lenses affect lens, sound. All these other stuff are far more valuable, and these are things that, this is like one of the first videos I went all the way back. This is one of the first videos I put that I talked about, like, these are the things that I've always talked about that should be worth investing. And we shouldn't be beefing and getting into drama over freaking cameras. Like, if somebody wants to choose this camera or say, if somebody wants to sell their Red Komodo X for a Blackmagic Pixis, let them do it. They have their reasons. They have their own individual reasons for doing it. People shouldn't get all up in a bunch because people switch cameras. I've switched cameras because I have no loyalty to a single company. I am going to find a camera and find an ecosystem that best fits for where I am at that current time, and then maybe invest in where I want to go. But that pathway is different for every single person. So let's not knock each other down for trying to get up in this life, because at the end of the day, we all want to see, we at least should want all of us to try to find some light of success. I know this is a long one, but these are my thoughts, and I would love to know what you guys think. Let me know, leave your comments down below. And as always, make sure to hit that subscribe button. And until next time, take care, everyone.